Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy MKS here. How's it going? Sorry, it's your boy MKS here, back here with another video. God knows what I'll try and say there. Mess up the intro again. But anyway, I hope you're well wherever you are, and I'd love to hear your thoughts I'd love to read your thoughts if I take it literally and whatnot. I'm not really doing very well with this intro ever. But anyway, I just went for a nice walk, or came back from a nice walk from a place where I went to get lunch. A free lunch, actually, a free meal. I never knew that sort of thing, but I go there pretty much every week. So anyway, yeah, I go there with my mum, and like it's a social sort of group, so we get to play bingo. And I thought that was just for old people, but it's a lot more fun than I thought, to be fair. But yeah, so nice life story on there. But can't remember what else I was going to say. But on the YouTube version, for anyone who might be watching on Facebook, hopefully I'll get some viewers at least. I mentioned how I have me and my family have three kittens now, and one of them has a name, which is Colonel, which is like apparently named after some sort of cereal or something, which my brother named. But I wanted people to vote, or I'd like people to vote on the names of the other two kittens. Yeah, so if you can let me know any names in the comment section, whichever vote wins, maybe we'll call them those two names. So yeah, if you keep posting potential names for kittens, because I'm hoping to have for them to have their own channel as well, so their own YouTube channel, or at least to include them on my own YouTube channel, as I sometimes do with Colonel in the thumbnail. So I was thinking if people vote on the name, I think it'd be a good way to choose the name, and also it's one for me to have to do. But on a more serious note, I thought for the YouTube channel, and maybe even Facebook as well, more popular names might bring more views. Maybe, I don't know, maybe a foolish thought of mine, but I just thought it'd be quite cool if people could vote on it, and maybe if they choose the name, a more popular name will mean that more people will want to tune in and view them. But they're quite cute kittens anyway, so I'm sure people will want to view them anyway. But yeah, also another thing I wanted to post up or ask was, do you think neurodivergent people have a lot to contribute to football, including Italian football and Celtic, and also FIFA itself, and just football generally? So these are my, I suppose I'm back at you with part two of, I should have said in the intro, well, still waffling on for the intro, but anyway, with that being said, I'm going to go on to this. But yeah, these are my ideas as a neurodivergent person, or neurodiverse, or whatever term you want to use, special needs if you want, a special person, a mad person, whatever term you want to use. They're two different things, just so I don't offend my fellow neurodivergent people. But I mean people with dyslexia, ADHD, and related conditions. I suppose there could be like similar things for mentally ill people as well. So maybe as a mentally ill person and a neurodiverse person, as well as even a mixy or a mixed race person, whichever term you want to use to be more politically correct. These are my ideas as all those sorts of things. So I was going to say initially just a neurodivergent person or a neurodiverse person, but I could also say as a mad person or mentally ill person, and as a mixed race person or whatnot. So how to get more diversity in football. Anyway, with that being said, I'm going to try and stop waffling and telling my life story. And but yeah, if you could vote on potential kittens names, it would be pretty cool. I hope a lot of people vote, and the most popular names I think are the ones I'm going to use for the kittens. Colonel's already been named, but I mean we could even change his name if you like, maybe if it's popular, but we are sort of used to it being that name now. So anyway, here goes. So these are ideas number 11 to 20. So as I say, I hope I can get people who are not even into football. With that being said, number 11, I hope to change the image of football to look at how I, as a neurodiverse, out of the box thinker, can change the image of football. So from being like known as being corrupt, being like having corruption, like financial corruption, match fixing, or terrible things like that. Looking at how to cut those things out as much as possible, and hopefully making sure that the best team wins, or even if it's the luckiest team, if you believe in luck, but not a team that bribes officials or things like that. So winning within the rules of the game, making sure it's not, dare I say, like wrestling, where the winner is predetermined. As a sport, it's supposed to be competitive. So yeah, making sure there's no bribing of officials or match fixing generally, basically, to put it simply, and also, as I say, tackling corruption generally, or even tackling crime through football, and looking at what football can do to make the world a better place, and show what it does to make the world a better place. I know FIFA is already involved in like Football for Good, and Celtic is involved in that sort of thing. So, and I'd love for town teams to be involved in that sort of thing more. But I say I'd love to see what neurodiverse people can contribute, or even mentally ill people can contribute, or others as well maybe can contribute, including my fellow mutts, can contribute to football generally to as they to change the perception. Number 12. I say football already does quite a lot of good things, and I know people say like they're overpaid prima donnas or whatever, but if you look at any form of marketing, the market decides what people should be paid. So as football gets more popular, clubs will be able to decide how much they should pay, and obviously they continue to pay more. But if they do a lot of good stuff like Football for Good and basically fundraising and things like that, I think even like things like tackling bullying, helping disabled people and helping disadvantaged people. In my naivety when I was younger, sorry, I should finish one sentence at a time, but if they do that sort of thing, hopefully it will improve the image of football, basically. And I think it'd be cool if they continue to do that sort of thing. And I think when I was younger, in my naivety, I used to think it's quite a strange thing that people in wheelchairs or people who can't basically can't play football would be into football. But obviously they're still interested in the social aspect or whatnot, or maybe even before they became disabled in some cases, they might have played football before they met with an unfortunate accident, unfortunately, and that kind of thing. But I find it quite interesting when football fundraises for like people who can't even play football. But I think that's a pretty cool thing. As I got older, I've thought of it as quite cool and quite fitting. Fitting is probably not the right word, but quite a cool thing, a touching thing, I would say, to help to fundraise for people with all sorts of disabilities and problems and challenges and that kind of thing. Number 13, as I often say, it's a selfish thing, hence why I choose it for number 13, but I support Italian football, and I'd love to do, as I said before, I'd love to look at into any possible way to benefit Italian football within the rules of the game and within the law. So any legal ways to bring in more money for Italian football, like help to build football pitches, and for the club teams, how they can bring in the best possible players, coaches, managers, and whatnot. Obviously, I mean, the slight difference between the club teams and the national team is that you can't just buy good players. It has to be like the players who qualify for the nation. So that's one of the differences I can think of at the top of my head, or the only difference I can think of at the top of my head. But I hope that Italy would have the Italian club teams will have a balance of bringing in the best possible overseas players whilst developing younger players from Italy itself. Number 14, again, I hope football can solve a lot of problems facing the world through Football for Good and that kind of thing. Number 15, I'd also love to work with charities, NGOs and whatnot, and look at how we can achieve goals together through football. Ironic choice of words, I suppose, but I play on words there perhaps by chance. But yeah, so look at how football could be used as to achieve other goals and that kind of thing. Number 16, I'd love to know from you guys, like anyone watching, hopefully I'll get some viewers, as I say, what do you think could be done to make football improve its image, improve its PR, tackle corruption, for instance, and cut crime and things like that. And what do you think about football and what its role is in society? Do you think it's a positive one or a negative one? And do you think it could be improved? I'm sure it could be improved in many ways. And also, as I say, do you think neurodivergent people, or even people with mental health problems as well, could benefit football generally? In my case, I'd love for them to especially benefit Italian football and Celtic, as I say, but even football generally, to get more people into football, people from different backgrounds and that kind of thing. Whoever can get involved, like people with mental health problems, people with neurodiverse conditions and whatnot. Obviously, with people with certain physical disabilities won't be able to, but even like there's even football for like blind people where they have a sensor in the ball and things like that. So and deaf people have their own games and stuff like that. So where they have like accommodations. So I think it's pretty cool that football is quite inclusive. I think it's cool that women are into football as well, and that all possible people are given opportunities to get into football, because to me it's the best sport in the world, in my opinion, and I'm sure many people agree with me. Sorry for any Americans out there, but proper football. Should be careful what I say, but maybe many Americans probably agree with me as well, to be fair, but I know you can always offend some people out there, but I'm sure there are still ways to make it even more inclusive and even more better, like in terms of showing that even though footballers get paid a lot, and even though there's a lot of money involved in football, they still do a lot of good with at least some of that money. And I know people say like football is just kicking a ball around and stuff like that, and I'll say they say they're overpaid prima donnas, but obviously if it was that simple, every person, certainly every male would get into, or most males would get into football if it was that easy just to make lots of money. So obviously it's a very competitive industry, just like pretty much every industry, I'm sure, especially to get to the top, is very competitive. But with the women's game, I was thinking like it doesn't affect me, if you like, as much as the men's game. Like if Italy won the Women's World Cup, I wouldn't really be as happy, anywhere near as happy as I would for the men's game, or men winning. Sorry, but I still think it is great that women are getting into football. Number 17, again, as a neurodiverse, out of the box person, I hope to use my imagination, and for Italy and Celtic to host, or Italian football and Celtic FC to host many events for people with mental health problems and neurodiverse conditions, respectively. Some specifically for dyslexics, some specifically for people with ADHD, and some probably even for people specifically with autism, like the Autism World Cup, the Dyslexia World Cup, maybe even the Dyspraxia World Cup and ADHD World Cup. Hopefully, certainly the latter, and especially for dyslexics, and which I think is the most common learning disability. And sometimes even for neurodiverse people generally, like having their own miniature World Cups where they invite people with those conditions all around the world. Personally, I wish it would benefit Italian football and Celtic, I'll say, as with all my ideas to do with football, pretty much. But hopefully it will also benefit those communities and people with neurodiverse conditions and mental health problems in Italy itself, and in Celtic, and in Glasgow Celtic, will hopefully be involved, especially, but also inviting those from around the world to take part. Number 18, again, I hope that I can come up with many ideas for football for good. And again, in the future, I'd love to, I don't know why I said it again, but I would love to meet up with representatives of FIFA and discuss my ideas, and even U.E.F.A, and also charities, NGOs and whatnot. And possibly, I was thinking mainly because I only really want to see Italy do well in the footy, and Celtic. Although I kind of have a little soft spot for Mediterranean teams. It's a bit of a dilemma with Spain because they're quite a competition for Italy in club team level, or even national level nowadays, and also France. I kind of wish to see Mediterranean teams do well, but especially Italian teams, which are by far the biggest priority for me in football in particular. But yeah, I'd love to work, as I say, with FIFA and U.E.F.A, but I wasn't thinking so much of football authorities or associations outside of Europe, like in Africa and Asia or Latin America, or whatever. But come to think of it, I think it would be cool to work with them to see how Italian teams and Celtic could practice with teams in South America and across Africa, Asia, and all over the world as well. So, including North America, of course. Which I hope will be a mutual benefit, which also would therefore benefit Italian football and Celtic as well. Number 19, I'll say football for good. I think I mentioned that point. I can't remember if I mentioned it in point number 18. But as part of that, I'd love to see football being used to fundraise for things like supporting Indigenous, African and Australasian software developers. And number 20, also Indigenous, Australasians and Africans in STEM as well, like how football could be used to fundraise for things like that, as well as like tackling climate change, natural disasters, helping disaster relief and things like that. So I'll leave with it on this question. What do you think football could do to improve its image and also hopefully, excuse the corniness, but make the world a better place? Anyway, with that being said, peace and love. I am out.